Good morning. Welcome to the second lecture, that is effectiveness in organizations. In the last lecture, we tried to understand what is organizational behavior as a field of study. Now, we move on to the second chapter, which is effectiveness in organizations. The objective of this lecture will be to understand the different models of organizational behavior. Understanding effectiveness in organizations, it has two approach, the goal approach and the systems theory approach. Knowing the time dimensions of effectiveness, knowing the criteria of effectiveness, knowing the limitations of organizational behavior, knowing the key forces affecting organizational behavior, understanding the continuing challenges of organizational behavior, and developing competencies for facing these challenges. So, if you can see, like, this chapter will equip us better, understanding when you cover at the end of this chapter, this is going to equip us in a better way to perform better by challenge. It will equip us in a to perform in a better way by understanding the forces which affect organizational behavior, its limitations, what helps us to be, what helps the organization to become effective, and what competencies we can develop to face the challenges faced by organizations while performing. So, we will start with the models of organizational behavior. So, what is a model? Models of organizational behavior consist of the belief system that dominates management's thought and affects management actions in each organization. So, we means the managers sometimes move through their own predetermined mindset in their mind, like, I believe that the nature of person is like this, so I will try to interact with this person in this way. Or each organization have their own frame of reference, what they think about human beings, the employees within that organization, what they need, how they perform, what they think, and so on and so forth. These predetermined ideas, belief systems that dominates managers or the management's thought processes, and as a result affects their action, these are called models of organizational behavior, and there are different models. First, we see like assumptions about employees. Way back in 1957, McGregor gave two models, which is we know as theory X and theory Y. Theory X tells, it is an idea which tells the typical person dislikes work and avoid it if possible. So, the management which moves with this idea in mind, like the theory X idea in mind, like the typical person dislikes work and avoid it if possible. The typical person lacks responsibility, has little ambition and seeks security above all. Most people must be coerced, controlled and threatened with punishment to get them to work. With these assumptions, the managerial role is to coerce and control employees. So, what will happen? I consider that if employees are such a lot of people, like who have to be directed, who have to be pulled, like suppose pulled by their ears to do their certain jobs, because they are lazy lot, they do not want to do, they do not want to perform, and always I have to be with them to monitor what they are doing. I have to direct them and I have to coerce them, I have to punish them, I have to threaten them, so that out of fear they are going to perform. If that fear is not there, they are not going to perform. So, this is one way of looking into the about the employee's nature and dealing with them. Theory Y tells that work is as a as natural as play or rest. People are not lazy. They have become that way as a result of experience. So, inherently people are good. If you are observing them to be lazy now, it is maybe as a result of certain experiences they have become that thing, and you have to find out the reason why people have become lazy or they do not want to perform. People will exercise self direction and self control in the service of the objectives to which they are committed. So, they will try to perform in their own way, they will try apply their own thought process, try to think about what is going on, why they are going to do this thing, what are the how to do that thing in a better way. People have potential. Under proper condition, they learn to accept and seek responsibility. So, it is not that they do not want to take responsibility. Under proper condition, if there is a favorable condition provided, they are eager to learn and accept and seek responsibilities. They have imagination, ingenuity and creativity that can be applied to work. With these assumptions, the managerial role is to develop the potential in employees and help them release that potential towards common objectives. So, if you see, these are two opposite roles that you are telling. Like if you move with this theory X idea in mind, we are assuming like employees have to be directed and they have to be controlled, they cannot think on their own, they do not want to perform. So, always as a manager I have to monitor and get things done through these people, as if left to themselves they are not going to perform. Whereas, this tells like is to develop the potential in employees. This is very important. Everybody has a potential to develop, and the manager's role is not to monitor the employees, not to coerce the employees, but to help them develop their potential so that they grow, help them release that and they grow, the employees develop. But again this word is very important, towards our common objectives. The growth of the employee should be channelized towards the organizational development, it should be aligned with the organization's development. The 5 models of organizational behavior which tells about 5 styles of the organization. If you see, these 5 styles are listed as autocratic, custodial, supportive, collegial and system. What is the basis of this model is autocratic model depends on power. Managerial orientation of this model is authority. Employee orientation, it is needed that the employee, it is expected that the employee will obey the order given by the managers. Employee psychological result is dependence on boss. Employee needs are met means subsistence need, I want to survive. So, the basic minimum is provided by the autocratic organization. As a result, performance is minimum, because I am always in a fear, like my supervisor and will come and tell me certain things. I will may be like coerced, I may be rebuked for doing certain things which my employer or the manager does not want. Next is custodial. Basis of that model is taking care of the resources, economic resources. Managerial orientation is towards money, profit is what? It guides the organization. Employee orientation is towards getting better security and benefits from the organization. Employee psychological result is dependence on the organization, because I want security and benefit, and it is the organization can only provide me that security and benefit, I depend on the organization. Employee security need is met through this model. Performance result is passive cooperation. This word passive cooperation is important. I cooperate with the organization to reach its objective, but that cooperation is passive in nature. It is not very enthusiastic, because I am only concerned with the gains that I am getting from the organization in terms of security and benefits, and also because the manager is concerned with the money and how to control the resources in a better way. When we are discussing the supportive model of the organization, the basis of that model is the leadership style, where the managerial orientation is support to the employees. Employee orientation is towards the job performance. I have to perform in a better way. Psychological result is I am able to participate in a group performance. The needs of the employees met through this are status and recognition. Because I am performing, I get recognition or a certain status in the group. And performance result is awaken drives, like I know like what I need from the organization, and I get a certain recognition from the organization, I get a certain status from the organization. So, this is awaken drives. Next model is collegial model. Basis of that model is partnership. So, if you see shift from leadership to partnership, in leadership still there is a power gap. I am a leader and the employees are my followers, and there is a shift in the focus of the power. But when you are talking of partnership, the power is equally distributed among all the participants. Managerial orientation is towards teamwork. Employee orientation, because it is teamwork, employee orientation is responsible behavior, like I am responsible for my own behavior. Psychological result is self discipline, because I am responsible, because it is a teamwork, because it is partnership, certain onus is given to me, then I have to be self disciplined, because nobody is there just to monitor me, then I have to be self disciplined. Employees need met is self actualization. I know like what I want to do, there is a scope for creativity, I can try to do certain things in my own way without having the fear like what my manager or supervisor is going to tell me. So, self actualization. Performance result is moderate enthusiasm, because I am just getting the good feeling like okay, I am doing this, I am in a different way. So, I feel excited from within to a certain level, like I am doing it in the way that I want to do it. So, employees have that moderate enthusiasm. In the system model, the basis of the model is of course trust on the employees. We work as a community, and the meaning, the work that we do is very meaningful, because that the meaning of the job is being translated to us. Managerial orientation is caring, compassion. So, I care for your development, I am compassionate towards your maybe the drawbacks and want you to the employees to develop. Employee orientation is psychological ownership. I own this part of the job that I am doing. So, I am the decision maker. So, employee psychological result is self motivation. I am self motivated, I am intrinsically motivated to do that job. Employee needs met are a wide range of needs, starting from So, all that is mentioned on the left hand side, subsistence, security, status recognition, self actualization, all these needs are met when we are having the basic thing, that is basis of the model is trust. Performance result is passion and commitment to organizational goals. This word passion is very important, like whatever I do it with full enthusiasm, I do it with full energy and commitment towards the organization goals. These will lead to what we call today like employee engagement, which is very important. I perform not to the extent that I am asked to perform. I voluntarily do something extra for the organization because I love doing it. That is very important, that passion. Effectiveness in organizations. So, that we try to, it starts from like Taylor's time. So, these are two kinds of attributes like variables that predict effectiveness and variables that indicate effectiveness, like what are the variables that will help effectiveness to happen and what are the variables, if this is done means effectiveness is there. These are the two like attributes of effectiveness. And under this we can try to list out various variables, and maybe one of your task over here, I have just left it like this for you to find out like what are the variables like which predict effectiveness, and also variables that indicate the parameters, the variables that indicate effectiveness. Now, as far as the approaches of effectiveness are concerned, there are two approaches in studying effectiveness. One is of course the goal approach, and the next is the systems theory approach. We will try to have a look into both these approaches. In the goal approach, it assumes that the organization exists to accomplish goals which reflects purpose, rationality and achievement, but it has its drawbacks. This approach has its drawbacks, like for certain things, for certain types of organizations, the whether you have achieved the goal or not is very difficult to measure, because sometimes it is in intangible outputs. So, how to measure, what unit to measure, so that we will tell okay, this much of goal if you have attended, then means you are effective. So, it sometimes it is very difficult for organizations to measure it. Next is sometimes goal conflict occurs, because what one person within the organization may see like this is my goal or this should be the organization's goal. Other persons may not seem the same thing to be the organization's goal. So, and also two goals may be conflicting with each other. Like if I want to produce high quality products, then simultaneously I want to minimize the production cost, then maybe at certain point of time there will be a goal conflict between these two goals. Like if you are going to produce high quality products, sometimes production cost it's high, you cannot just minimize it to that level. So, goal conflicts may occur, and then how do you find out what is effectiveness? Organizational members rarely come to a consensus regarding what goals to pursue. There will be individual differences regarding like the goals of the organization and individual goals also. So, while we are going by the goal directed approach, it is very difficult to zero down into a goal like this is the goal of the organization. And goal achievement also does not guarantee like you are effective. Why? Maybe you have reached that goal, but you have made lots of wastages. So, that's exactly not permissible. Like goal achievement, anyhow you have achieved your goal, but in the process you have made numerous mistakes, does not signify like you are a very effective organization. So, due to these are the shortcomings rather of the goal approach. So, the systems theory approach, it tells about it deals with the broader context of internal and external environment, and it shows that organization to be an interdependent, there is a relationship of interdependence and between the internal and the external aspects of organizational behavior, and you have to keep in mind these aspects while we are talking of effectiveness. The human inputs in the organization, like organization has human inputs, employees and natural resources, then from the external environment and non-human inputs also like equipment, information, raw materials from the outside environment. You know, all these interact together to define what is effectiveness, and challenges in each of these fronts are different. So, while we are trying to judge whether an organization is effective or not, we have to take into consideration the whole gamut of the relationship that the environment that the organization is in, and then try to find out in this context that the organization is performing, whether it is doing the right thing or not in a better way. So, that will determine its effectiveness. And one of the important theory to determine the effective, or one of the important aspects rather to determine the effectiveness of the organization in the systems theory is having a proper source of feedback and understanding the feedback at the right point of time, taking the feedback at the right point of time. So, for collecting this, what is the mechanism, the more developed mechanism that the organization has for collecting feedback both from internal and the external environment, then and if the feedback is timely and if in nature, then it helps us to connect the relationship of the different elements in a much proper way and take corrective actions. So, feedback is very important. So, and flexibility of the environment, the organization's ability to adapt, adjust to environmental demands is also very important for this organizational effectiveness when we discuss in the systems theory perspective. For that, one of the primary things which is required is organization's ability and interest to learn certain things. So, the concept of learning organization is important while we are talking of effectiveness of the organization from systems perspective. That is, one is organization's ability to learn, adapt and change, learn, adapt and change. How? by acquiring knowledge, distribution of information and interpretation of those information that we collect from the environment, both internal and external to the organization. So, and this learning is, how we do it is learning. These learnings are two types of learnings are, it is more important to, rather than what you learn, it's more important to know how you learn it. Means learning how to learn is very important, and how to learn through like the teaching that we get from the environment. So, it is important, like the process of learning is very important, how you get your information, how you interpret it, your cognitive ability to decipher the knowledge that you get. These things are very important when you are talking of a learning organization. When we are talking of organizational effectiveness, then again there is a time dimension to it. So, when it is a time based perspective, like whether we are talking of effectiveness in the short run, whether there is a mid range for it or intermediate run, and whether it is for the longer period, and which is for indefinite maybe future perspective. So, and the criteria for effectiveness will differ based on for what time frame you are considering your effectiveness. If it is for the short run, your concern will be the quality, productivity, efficiency and satisfaction. Then intermediate criteria are quality, adaptiveness, efficiency and satisfaction. So, if you see, like when you are talking of short run things, so immediate result and productivity and satisfaction with that result, quality, this is very important. When it is when the effectiveness criteria is of intermediate nature, means you are at least there for your planning for effectiveness for of an individual, group and organization for at least for 5 years, then adaptiveness with the environment is one of the important criteria of effectiveness. And if it is for the long run, means indefinite times, you do not know how much, then two most important things are of course the quality of your what you do and your survival strategies. Means the more flexibility, more of learning organization, more of environmental scanning and learning, getting a proper feedback, these factors become much more important when you are talking of long term effectiveness, because survival strategy of an organization is very important. And if you see, when you are talking of criteria of effectiveness, it must reflect, the criteria must reflect the stage of the organization's life cycle, as we told earlier, like whether it is for the long term, short term or intermediate terms. And first of course is, see, the one of the important criteria of course is your quality of so that you of whatever you are doing and how you are doing it, so that it meets the customer's needs and expectations. So, quality in your through products and your for your products and services. Next is your productivity. So, productivity is again reflects the relationship between inputs and outputs. It excludes consideration of efficiency. So, like profit, sales, market share, clients or patients released, etc. Efficiency, it is the ratio of input and output, means how you do certain things, and these are certain scrappage and wastage, downtime, occupancy rates, these are certain measures of efficiency. And productivity, if you tell, it is like effectiveness and efficiency together leads to productivity. Next is see satisfaction, the extent to which the organization meets employee needs. It recognizes the organization as a social system that must benefit its participants. Adaptiveness means the degree to which the organization can adapt to the internal and external changes, and the more we can adapt in a better way, the more we can sense the environmental changes and take your corrective measures, then it is helpful for the organizations more to become more effective. Then develop means how you expand yourself, how your capabilities, your capacities to how you expand yourself to deal with the environment, you expand your capacities. For that, learning is very important, investment of the organization in different training programs, so that you become well equipped to answer the challenges faced by both the internal and external environment is very important. And these are called investments for survival. An organization can be effective in the short run, but it is how it is going to adapt to the external environment, what effort does it take for the development at each of the life cycle stages, how it, what effort it has taken for its in the growth of the employees and increasing the competency of the employees, so that they can face the challenges in a better way, will be the ultimate criteria for effectiveness in the long run. Because if you are not equipped to face the challenges, if you are not able to sense the changes in the environment, if you are not able to adapt to the changes in the environment, then maybe you are not going to exist, you will just become a defunct thing. We also have to understand the three major limitations of organizational behavior, because that is connected with the effectiveness of the organization. Like we as OB practitioners, we may be biased towards getting more for the employees, like because it is individual, it is a study of the individual behavior, their perception, motivation, values have to be given importance in the organization, group functioning is very important. Sometimes people become biased towards satisfying more of individual needs and developing people, but these may lead to biases in certain extent. Like we cannot overlook the organization's purpose and the context of the organization while we are and we just cannot demand a gain for individual development at the cost of organization's development. So, that is a sound OB should recognize a social system in which a person's need can be satisfied to a certain extent, keeping into consideration the environment that the organization is in. So, a narrow viewpoint, if you take a narrow viewpoint of OB, it emphasizes satisfying employee experiences while overlooking the broader system of the organization in relation to all its public. It is not possible because organization A is providing the employees with certain things, it may not be prudent enough, or it may not be possible for organization B also to provide all those things. It may provide some things less, but it may provide something more which organization A cannot provide. So, it depends on the nature of the organization and the context it is in, like what it can, to what extent it can satisfy what type of needs of the employees. Law of diminishing return, it is more of a good thing is not necessarily good. So, organizational effectiveness is achieved not by maximizing human variable, but by combining all systems variable together in a balanced way. This is important, like if you remember about the theory Y while we are discussing, like we are talking of employee development, and while we are talking of theory Y, growth and development of employee, but again there was a link to it along with organizations development. Suppose I as an employee I want to go to a training program, which I see somewhere a training program is going on, I come and tell, okay, I want to go to this training program. Now, as a manager, before sanctioning that person to go for that program, we have to understand, okay, principally if we agree to send that person to the training program, is it necessary for that organization? How much costly is it for the organization? Can we bear that cost? Costly in the sense of not only in terms of money, but also in terms of time, the replacement that you have to get for that person for the time he is away from the organization. All these things you have to take into mind to find out whether you can allow this person to go for that specific training program that he wants to go. That training program may enhance his competence, no doubt in it, but whether it is affordable by the organization in various, based on different criteria, that we have to consider. Unethical manipulation of people. So, techniques can be used to manipulate people unethically within the organization. We will discuss this more when you are talking of misbehavior within the organization or the political behavior within the organizations. So, how far organizational politics is permissible within the organization, and when we have to be strict and just not let things happen. So, that we have to prevent, and knowledge and techniques. So, more that is the importance of studying the misbehavior in workplace. We need to know like what could be the possible misbehaviors, what could be the possible unethical practices, and how to prevent that things, so that the purpose of the employee and the purpose of the organization are aligned with each other. The key forces affecting organizations are, first is of course the people. Next is why people? Because now we means the organization are working in a global environment. So, when and there are different the workforce, there is a considerable change in the nature of the workforce. People are of different age groups, they come from different backgrounds, they are of different nature, and they come from different cultural backgrounds, they come from different social backgrounds, and leading to what is called, they come from different regional areas also, leading to workforce diversity, and this managing it is very important. Structure of the organization has changed a lot. So, from the bureaucratic structure to now the matrix organization to virtual organization, boundaryless organization. So, every new day newer experiments are being made with the structure of the organization. Along with those things, OB also changes the way we behave within that organization, also changes based on the structure that you are in. Different technological innovations have, technology is also changing within the communication technology is becoming more advanced. So, different production technology is also changing. So, all these things will change the nature of interaction, the nature of communication of people with each other. It requires a different set of skills for the person to adjust to these technological innovations. Environment, both inside and the external environment of the organization is rapidly changing and giving rise to various ethical issues within the environment and also within the organization and also the outside the organization. So, demands of the environment are changing from the organization, concerns of the environment from the organization are changing, and so organization has to understand those demands and answer accordingly. So, based on these forces, the different challenges, these forces, the changing nature of these forces pose different challenge for the managers, and these are first of course is managing in a global environment. So, the skills, the mindset up required for managing in a global environment, the outlook, the model that you need to have, the predetermined idea that you need to have about your employees is quite different from the in earlier years to now while you are functioning in a global environment, and the functions of the management also changes, the concerns changes. Next is managing workforce diversity. The human resource policies and practices is affected a lot while we are dealing with a diverse workforce which consists of age, gender and cultural diversity and all these things, because practices vary, perceptions vary, attitudes vary, and you have to, the organization has to take care of all these factors if they want a holistic development of their workforce. Managing technological innovation, being conversant with these innovations, ability to use this innovation for the proper functioning of the organization is very important. So, training, a lot of learning is required in this field. Managing ethical issues at work, various ethical issues come up from different aspects within the organization at individual levels and group levels, and interorganization ethical issues also come up, and we have to understand what is the right way of doing things, keeping into consideration certain factors in mind. So, what OB helps to do is to help people attain the competencies, that is, what is a competency is interrelated set of abilities, behaviors, attitudes and knowledge. So, it is not only ability, behavior, attitude and knowledge separately, but it is an interrelation, it is a mix of abilities, behaviors, attitudes and knowledge needed by the individual to be effective in a managerial position or to become an effective employees, teams, leaders, members or managers. So, it helps to get that effectiveness or to attain the competency, because if you remember, like while we are discussing the basic OB model, what I told is that even if you are discussing one of the factors present either at the individual, group or organizational level. So, you have to take into consideration all other factors present either at the same or other levels and think them as a holistic concept before you try to decide on certain things. And the knowledge of OB helps people to attain those competencies, means to develop that eye of looking into factors not separately, but as an interrelated concept. Then how it helps is by first is important thing of course is in OB is learning how to manage self. What happens, we take management as like if you ask anybody is what is management all about, you get the straightway definition, getting things done by or through others, but we forget the first word of management, that is management of self. And first competency which is being developed by the field of organizational behavior is of course managing self. How? Because you come to know what are your perceptions, why you perceive certain things in certain way, what is your personality pattern, what is your ability, what are your limitations, why you believe in certain way, what you like, what are your emotions, what are your moods, what are your attitudes, why you do certain things, how you behave in certain way, and you try to take corrective measures from some and try to develop in other aspects. And so, you what at the end of the day you reach to is managing your own self. Next is managing communication. In that what happens, like what are the factors of communication, what leads to a better communication, what are the barriers of communication. If you get to know these things, what will happen is you get to communicate in a better way. Diversity in workplace, you cannot ignore that. What we have to understand, what is the nature of diversity, how we have to accept like people are different, and then we have to respect that difference and formulate our policies, practices, so that we can better answer to the need of this diversity. Ethics in the workplace, again doing the right thing in a right way in the right context is very important. Like sometimes we are in decisional dilemmas if there is a situation and we cannot decide should we be doing this thing or should we be doing that thing. Path A may be more profitable, the outcome is more profitable, but the process is that not that much okay. Path B is of less of profit, but its a path is the right, the it's okay path means you do not have to go to unfair means for that. Then which one is to choose, like should you take look to the end which is more profit or go to the path which is not unfair, and managing. And this is just a broad example or broad like one line of decision making. I just told about ethics, but ethics is not that simple. Like you come to dilemmas, and solving these questions of dilemma is very important. Situations are complex while taking ethical decisions, which may appear that in the short run you are not taking a decision which is appearing to be profitable in terms of monetary gain for the organization, and there could be pressures from different concerns, concerned people, your shareholders and others, why you are deciding in this way, because your decision is not leading to the profit, monetary profit of the organization. Then you have to think of your short term and long term gain, because if you remember that at the end what is more important is long term survival rather than your short term focus on profitability. and an organization survives only when your greater society accepts you, the greater environment accepts you, it accepts you for your value system. Managing across cultures, again there are host countries and they have their own cultures, their own values. So, parent country, so which values you give more importance to and which culture you give more importance to. Do you follow your culture and try to just practice it in the other country, or you are going to adapt certain things, certain practices of the country where you go to do your business also. These are important issues for decision making. Managing team, while you are talking of team performance, how do you reward a team? Do you reward an individual within a team, or you reward all the team members? What is your reward system? What is your way of motivating? What is your way of engaging team members? These are important challenges, and the knowledge of OB, because it helps you to understand the team dynamics, helps you to develop competencies in this regard. Managing change is another important issue. What type of change? Is it a program change? It is a non-program change? Then do you accept that change? Do you prepare yourself for that change, or first you face the change and then you try to take corrective measures? How do you communicate the change process to your employees? These are very important, so that they can accept the change, or they are means they also a part of that change process and change happens smoothly. These are some important considerations, competencies that the knowledge of OB helps to develop. But again, the field of OB is not without its own challenges, because what happens is with these behavioral programs, people try to gain very quick fix. Seeking quick fix is one of the challenges, because they have short time horizons and they want immediate payoff from the behavioral programs, which is sometimes not possible, because behavioral programs need its own time to show the results. You send a person to a training today, and tomorrow if you want that person to perform in a better way, that sometimes it really does not happen, and that is a over expectation from the behavioral programs. Varying environment, and sometimes we do not understand, like as OB practitioners, like environments for certain things are different, organizational environment is different, cultural environment is different, and we have to modify the concept of OB so that it suits the environment that the organization is in. So, that what practices is possible in the Western country may not be suitable to the Indian country or Eastern countries, because they have their own value system, they have their own ways of looking into things, which is quite different from the Western world. So, what we have to do, the prudence is that we try to adapt the concepts to the environment, to where it is applicable, and just not superimpose a concept on in a different context. We have to take into consideration the contextual factors, we have to take into consideration the cultural factors before we try to adapt certain OB concepts in that particular organization. Then we have to be conscious of these two challenges, so that at the end of the day we can utilize the knowledge of OB in a better way. We learn about organizational factors, we learn about individual factors like perception, personality, attitudes, values, motivation, communication. We learn about group factors, leadership, trust, then conflict, power, whatever, and we organizational structure, design. But at the end of the day, we have to take into consideration, like, is it possible to apply whatever we have learned in the way as it is what we have learned, or it needs certain modification so that we can suit it, we can like tailor make it for the organization where we want to apply it, because the nature of the organization is like this, or the constraints faced by the organization which is of a different nature, like the service organization, manufacturing organization, again virtual teams and all these factors. The principle may remain same, but the application part, the practice part will have to be modified based on where you are applying the OB concept. So that will help you to get a better effectiveness for the organization. Followed by questions. So, what are the various models of organizational behavior? Discuss the similarities and differences among the 5 models of OB. What is organizational effectiveness? Critically evaluate the goal approach and systems theory approach of defining effectiveness. Discuss the criteria of effectiveness with reference to time dimension of effectiveness. Describe with examples the limitations of organizational behavior. What are the key forces affecting organizational behavior? What are the continuing challenges of organizational behavior? Describe how the 7 competencies help in facing these challenges. So, again you see the questions that has been framed. If you are finding answers to these questions with a critical thinking mind, that is very important. You have to think about the answers that you write to these questions. It's not, answers are not very simple, straightforward. You have to link each of the factors with each other before you find answers to these questions. And when you know, like, what are the limitations of OB, what are the forces affecting OB, how you can improve OB, in what way to apply OB, so that it helps to increase individuals, group and organizational effectiveness. Maybe what you will learn at the end of this session is application of knowledge of OB in a better way for increasing overall holistic effectiveness of the organization per se, which is not only organizational effectiveness, along with it the groups and individuals effectiveness also. But for that we have to keep open a very adaptive mind, a thinking mind, like ways of knowing how to scan the environment, how to adapt to the changes faced by the environment and find proper answers for it. Thank you.